Hey, welcome everyone. Thanks for joining me today on this September 13th, 2023. That's right, my name's Tom Coffee. This is a Coffee Nuance Show. We're out on the socials at Coffee and Nuance. Remember, we're streaming live right now on YouTube and on Rumble. Rumble.com/Coffee Nuance/live. You're going to want to subscribe over there because there may be some other live streams that don't appear everywhere else. So be sure that you're subscribing on Rumble so you don't miss anything. But today, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the political theater that is American politics. Today, we're talking about one of my favorite concepts, plausible deniability. It's like a get-out-of-jail-free card for politicians. You know politicians are like magicians. They're great at making things disappear. But instead of pulling rabbits out of a hat, they pull off the, I don't know, out of thin air, like they're in a perpetual game of hide and seek with the truth. Plausible deniability, folks, is the art of pretending you have no clue what's going on right under your very nose. It's like pretending you can't smell burnt toast when the kitchen's on fire. I have no idea why my son was doing at all those business meetings that I happened to call into. Nope. I had no idea why I was asked to drop by and say hi. Yeah. Let's not forget the classic move, finger-pointing blame game. It's like a game of political hot potato. It wasn't me. It was that guy in accounting. Yeah. No. No, it was that lady over in communications. I mean, pretty soon they're going to blame the White House janitor for the deficit. But here's the kicker, folks. It's not just politicians. It's a whole industry. They got PR teams, spin doctors, and a thesaurus full of euphemisms for I effed up big time, right? I misspoke. I was taken out of context. Had a momentary lapse of judgment. It's like they went to the school of creative excuses. And then there's the media. Bless their hearts, which is Southern for listen to these a-holes. They'll cover a scandal like it's the end of the world, and then poof, it's gone. Just like last year's fashion trends. They're like a cat chasing a laser pointer, easily distracted from the real issues. But we, my friends, we must be skeptics, the truth seekers, the buzzkill at the political party. We can't let them get away with it with this plausible deniability claims. Yeah. We've got to demand transparency, accountability, and maybe a little less drama and a lot more honesty. Because in the grand illusion of politics, it's time we stopped being the audience and we started being the critics. Let me tell you, the reviews for plausible deniability, they're not that great. Remember, don't believe everything you hear, especially from these guys. My name's Tom Coffee. This is the Coffee Nuance Show. Best censored commentary news show live right now. Flame on. Good coffee today. Good coffee today. So I want to talk about how you can identify plausible deniability, because it's tricky, right? So here's a couple things that if you see it, it may be plausible deniability. See, that's the key, is you make something ambiguous, right? It's really hard to put your finger on it. So one thing is the ambiguity in statements. So politicians, they engage in plausible deniability often by using vague or ambitious language. Ambiguous language. I can't even read my own notes. Anyway, they may say things like, I don't recall, or I wasn't aware. I didn't have the full information. This allows them to avoid making clear and direct statements. So what you want to do is pin them down on their statements. Don't let them be ambiguous about things. Another sign that they're pulling this trick is blame shifting. So it often will be shifting blame or responsibilities to others. The person may try to distance themselves from a situation by pointing fingers at subordinates, advisors, colleagues. You see this all the time. Now, here's a big one. Lack of documentation. When there's a lack of written or documented evidence of involvement or knowledge, it becomes easier for individuals to claim plausible deniability. They might want to avoid email trails or written records intentionally, okay? Now, who does this, right? So Biden, right, turns out now it's up to 4. I think they found a new email alias over the weekend that he was using. And that's the thing, if it's not under your name, that wasn't me, right? That is a sign that someone is using this strategy. Another thing, and I don't know if it is for this reason, again, we don't know, but like Trump doesn't even use email. He doesn't even use email. It's like print it out, put it down. He doesn't even want the email record. Doesn't even use an email account. That's a good way to not have evidence that you may or may not have known something, right? It creates plausible deniability. And I think all of the best, highest politicians, they use this. And you need to be aware of how they get away with it. Another thing is compartmentalization. So plausible deniability can involve compartmentalizing information so only a select few individuals are aware of some of the details. It makes it easier for others to claim they were unaware of specific events or decisions. And one of the last strategies for this is the use of intermediaries. Politicians might use intermediaries, go-between, to carry out their actions, allowing them to maintain plausible deniability. They've got distance. They can create a buffer between the decision maker and the action itself. Something else you can look for, inconsistent statements. Pay attention to inconsistencies in a person's statements over time. If someone gives conflicting accounts or changes their story, that can be a sign that they're using plausible deniability. And patterns of behavior. If someone has a history of using plausible deniability in previous situations, well, that's a red flag that they may be doing it again. And this guy's the king of it. Lastly, consider motive. Okay? Are they trying to avoid legal consequences? Protect their reputation? Distance themselves from a controversial issue or unlawful activity? Well, they might be using plausible deniability to get away with it. Media coverage. Look at the way the media and the public react to an individual's statements. If there's skepticism, criticism about their credibility, it could indicate that politician is indeed using plausible deniability. What we really need here, folks, are investigative reporting. Investigative journalists can play a crucial role in uncovering these instances of plausible deniability. They dig deep, they find evidence, they find inconsistencies and connections, and they might be able to expose the truth. Of course, what happens to those people? They get deplatformed. The algorithm turns against them. They hide their YouTube channel. And that's what you get if you point out these types of things. It's important to remember plausible deniability does not necessarily imply guilt or wrongdoing, but it does raise questions about transparency and accountability. And when you're trying to identify this again, and this is what I've said on this channel so many times, critical thinking, a healthy dose of skepticism are your best tools in this situation. So, are you hip to this idea of plausible deniability? It's not just politicians that use this, right? I mean, we all use this. Perhaps you saw a message at work and you pretend like you didn't see it, right? And then I didn't even think about what I was going to say here, so let's just forget that. But but yeah, this is used all the time. It is a fantastic technique of playing dumb, of playing the I didn't know about that. And this guy's the king of it here in the little picture. He's the best. He should get an award for this. But that's what he's using for everything that's happening now with his son's business. I think it's really incredible that a guy my age who is worth $338 million. I mean, Hunter Biden could be possibly the most successful crackhead in the history of the universe. I mean, that's unbelievable that he's able to do that. And Joe is not aware of it because, hey, he didn't know about his business. He never talked to his son about his son's business. That's what they want us to believe. And that's what plausible deniability is. All right, so today's show, we got a couple of stories to get to today. It's kind of a theme. This might be a Biden critical show, heavy on that. But we're going to get to a couple of stories and stick around for the after show. I'll go through all of your comments on Rumble and on YouTube. So stick around for the end of the show for that. But first up, let's talk about this awesome negotiation that Joe Biden just did. You know, I said I was going to have a longer buffer there so I could get a bigger sip of coffee between stories. I need to do that. All right. You know, folks, this Iran deal, it's got Republicans fuming, and I can't blame them. I mean, Biden's releasing 5 Iranians, and in return, we get 5 Americans back. And this seems to be the world's most lopsided game of hostage trading because, well, $6 billion in frozen funds? It's not a humanitarian gesture. That's more like the Ayatollah stimulus package. I guess Biden's foreign policy strategy is let's negotiate by giving away the store and hoping the media doesn't cover it. Yeah, here's the story. Republicans are upset about the Biden administration's prisoner exchange with Iran, claiming it amounts to paying ransom to a terrorist state. And they think that because that's pretty much what it looks like. The deal involves releasing Iranians held in U.S. in exchange for Americans detained in Iran and unfreezing $6 billion with a B of Iranian funds for humanitarian use. Republicans argue that this may encourage more hostage taking and fear it could aid Iran's nuclear ambitions and support terrorism. Some accuse the administration of a secret nuclear deal with Iran, which they say is hidden from Congress, of which they would have plausible deniability. That's right. But it's interesting. Is this photoshopped? Is this photoshopped? It literally says down with USA. Okay. That's so we unfroze $6 billion. And afterwards, guess what Iran said about, that we would, they unfroze the money for humanitarian use, and then Iran turned around and said, oh, thanks, but by the way, we'll use the money any damn way we want. Yeah, that happened. Missed that line, though, in the New York Times. How about that? So much in life really comes down to incentives. And if you understand incentives, right? Incentives basically explain all of economics, right? And if you understand incentives, you can make predictions of what's going to happen in the future. Well, we've had this thing that we don't negotiate with terrorists, right? We won't pay ransom on things. And technically, right, we're not paying a ransom. they're giving Americans back, we're giving Iranians back, and we're freeing up, coincidentally, $6 billion of Iranian money that the U.S. has held. Kind of seems like a ransom payment, doesn't it? I mean, if it walks like a duck, talks like a duck, quacks like a duck, doesn't necessarily mean that it is a duck, but it might as well be a duck, okay? This might as well be a $6 billion ransom payment. Because for all intents and purposes, that's what it appears to be. And what do you think the incentive for this will be? Do you think any other terrorist states may decide to capture Americans because they can then be exchanged for money? Yeah, absolutely. I unfortunately predict that more Americans will be captured, held prisoner by terrorist states because of this decision by Joe Biden. I hope that it's not true, but when you look at incentives pretty much explain most things. So that's my conclusion, but if you have a different thought, let me know in the comments. I'll get to that in the after show. Next up, we'll get a little insight from Joe Scarborough. You know it's getting serious when even Democrats are using Biden and alternative in the same sentence. Yeah, here's the story. Joe Scarborough provided revealing insight into a disparity among Democrats regarding President Joe Biden. A Washington Post column by David Ignatius questioned Biden and Vice President Harris running in 2024 due to concerns about their ability to defeat Donald Trump. Co-host Mika Brzezinski challenged Ignatius to propose an alternative, but he couldn't name one. Scarborough highlighted that privately, many Democrats expressed doubts about Biden's age and candidacy, but publicly they all support him. But here's the kicker, folks. He didn't just say that most of the people behind the scenes were telling him that Biden was too old. No. Joe Scarborough, who is pushing, right, at least anti-Trump stuff on the daily, right? He said that literally 100% of Democrats behind the scenes say that Joe Biden's too old to run. He said not 99%. He said 100% of Democrats behind the scenes that he talks to are saying that Joe Biden's too old to run. So, yeah, we'll see what happens there. You know, my prediction that I made months and months and months ago is that Newsom will take over. We'll just have to see how this plays out. But, yeah. Anyway, speaking of Gavin Newsom, let's talk about a crazy ban coming to California. So, you know what's absurd, folks? California's banning food additives from Skittles. I mean, what's next? Banning sunshine? Because it might contain too much vitamin D? Let's not forget, folks, we're in the land of the free, but apparently we're not free to eat rainbow-colored candy anymore. I guess it's time to stock up on Skittles contraband and start a candy black market in my basement. Remember, folks, in California, you can have recreational marijuana, but God forbid you have a potassium bromate-laden Skittle. Boom. And you never thought anyone could make a good joke with the punchline potassium bromate-laden Skittle. And they haven't yet, because that wasn't a very good joke, but it amused me. I mean, when else are you going to say potassium bromate-laden Skittle, right? This could be the first time in history that those words have ever been uttered together, and you heard them here first. So here's the story. California's passed the California Safety Act, banning additives in popular snacks like Skittles. The bill targets brominated vegetable oil, potassium bromate, polyparaben, and red dye number 3. It awaits the governor's signature and could impose fines of up to $10,000 for violations, taking effect in 2027. The aim is to encourage safer ingredient use without banning specific snacks. Arnold Schwarzenegger supports the bill, emphasizing its common sense approach. Common sense approach. Wow. You know, if Skittles are so bad, if they're so bad that they have to be banned, it's odd that it won't go into effect until 2027. Right? I mean, does that make sense? I mean, I'm not saying you should, but I don't eat Skittles. I don't eat candy. I'm not really a candy guy. I like candy, don't get me wrong. I don't really buy it that much. But if Skittles are so bad, if there's some ingredients that are so terrible, well, ban it now. Why are we waiting 4 years for the ban to go into effect? I don't know. That seems kind of odd to me. I don't know. Anyway, with all this, we need some good news to end the show on, so let's get to the good news. Yeah. Well, folks, you know they say inspiration can strike from the unlikeliest of places. Take Austin here, for instance. He saved his behavioral therapist from drowning after watching Stranger Things. Guess it's a good thing he didn't watch Baywatch, because then we'd be seeing therapists all over the world diving into pools in slow motion, hoping for a rescue. Just remember, folks, CPR, it's not just for lifeguards anymore. So here's the story. During a swimming session with his behavioral therapist, which I don't even understand why you're having a swimming lesson with your behavioral therapist, right? Does that make any sense? I don't know. But he was alarmed when his therapist decided to test his ability to hold his breath underwater for an unusually long period of time, approximately 6 minutes or so. Well, he knew this was dangerous. He watched him lose consciousness within 30 seconds. Fortunately, security cameras at the pool recorded the incident. Austin sprang into action, rescuing his therapist, calling for help, and he performed CPR. Paquette, the guy's name, regained consciousness a few minutes later, and Austin credited his quick thinking to something he had seen on the TV show Stranger Things. So inspiration can come from a lot of different places. You know, I do think that CPR is something that we should all know, right? And if we're going to force kids to learn things in school, I know there's lots of things that they seem to be obsessed with teaching kids these days that to me don't seem that important. But I think a one day, you know, a 45-minute session on learning CPR for all kids, maybe 8th grade, 9th grade, something like that, would be very beneficial for the world. I think that'd be a really good thing. Because right here, this kid, you remembered seeing it on Stranger Things, saved somebody's life. So I think that's good news. And we always need some good news at the end of a show. It just seemed to be really, really negative. Anyway, that's all I have for you today. Stick around for the after show. I'll read all your comments. And I'll be back on Friday, Fact Check Friday, with another great show for you. Until then, peace. Boom, here we are. Not a whole lot of people on this Wednesday. I'm not sure what's happening. Rumble people, we need some more comments. You can do it. Coffee time, OX_00. Let's go, lunchtime, break to watch. Well, I'm glad that you have so many options to choose and you chose me. That really means a lot. So thanks for that. Plausible deniability. Just look at the president. He can deny remembering or knowing anything. Might be why he is in that position to have plausible deniability on our government's actions. Yeah, there's a lot to that as well. If you want someone, let's say you want to do something nefarious in an organization, right? You get yourself a patsy, right? You promote someone that will do what you tell them to do, right? You tell them to do, and hey, you didn't know, and this dummy carried it out, right? There's a lot to that there as well. What's up, Lucid Moments? School of Creative Excuses. I like it, yeah. You can't have plausible deniability when you write your own notes, Tom. That is true. That is true. It's I can't blame my assistant because I don't have one. So, yeah. You need an scapegoat, but nice. You say negotiation, I say kickback. Well, I don't think we're that far off. When did the Iranian people become humanitarians? Well, I will say I am of the opinion that most people are pretty good, and I think most people in Iran are pretty awesome. I really do. Not talking about their leaders, but I do think we here in the U.S. have a lot more in common with the regular person in Iran than you would even imagine. That's my opinion on looking into what life is like in Iran and what people are into and what they do for fun. It's very, very similar to it's not that far off from your own life. Believe that. Yep, it was $6 billion. Coinkydink. Happens all the time. No biggie. That's true. Iran probably snaked on the kickback to Biden. Perhaps. Yeah, Doug, I hope they remembered 10% for the big guy. That'd be interesting. That would be interesting. What's 10% of $6 billion, right? That's a good chunk. 600 mil? Skittles without the rainbow. Time to open a black market for Skittles in California. Absolutely. We're living in an episode of Stranger Things. I've heard so many good things about Stranger Things, so much good things about Stranger Things. I only watched one episode. I should probably give it another chance, but it just didn't catch me at the time. And I don't know. Sometimes you're in the wrong mood. You see something and you just write it off. We're all guilty of that sometimes, I guess. And everyone should know CPR. Yes, I do think that everyone should know CPR. It is not that hard. You can learn it pretty quickly, and it should be something that everyone knows. And if you know it, you can teach it to your kids, teach it to your friends. But we do have a lot of shoulds in our life, don't we? We have a lot of shoulds. Anyway, I think that is about it. That's about it. Those are the comments today. I'll be back on Friday, Fact Check Friday. And so I'll see you then. Peace.